he's a legend, of course, and we as a public have a vision of him. What do you think we don't know about him? What we should know?
Well, I think a lot of people in the public don't really know about Michael's generosity. I mean, they know that he gave a lot to charity, but I don't think they knew how much he gave to charity, and that he has the, Guinness World Record for the, most charitable contributions by any one person. That he, was tireless in his efforts of, humanity and goodwill. That on days off while we were touring, he would go to homeless and, hospitals, and he would, give of himself in that way, so that every hour was spent doing something productive. I mean, I don't think people know that all of his money that he made from the Victory Tour went to charity. I don't think that people know, how involved he was and how far-reaching his talent was, and how he was involved in many projects in the world that people didn't even know he was involved in because they were not in the areas of music, So it was very interesting being with him all of these years and getting to sort of have the experiences I did, and, just sort of be in his world.
Yeah. And then you've heard that he had died.
Yes.
Can you, of course, the moment. What was the moment? Could you describe it?
Well, we were actually preparing for rehearsal. Every day we would start rehearsing, he and I, at 2 p.m. at his home. And I was actually en route to his house when I heard that he had passed. And first I heard it on the radio, and then I started getting phone calls in the car. And of course, at first I didn't believe them because it was always something. And you always have to question, things that you hear about Michael, because there were so many inaccuracies. So that was the way I treated it. I didn't really believe it, and continued to travel toward the home. And then probably about 10 minutes from the home, I received a call from the Staples Center from production saying that, Michael had been taken to the hospital and that I should not go to the house. I should come to Staples Center. So I diverted my trip and went to Staples and was with the group, the crew and cast, when we actually got news of his passing, official news of his passing. So, I mean, that was definitely a moment I'll never forget, and a moment that I'll always remember exactly where I was. And I think that the fact that we were all together and able to sort of support each other in that very critical time was good. And for over a week, after we found out that, news, we couldn't be apart. So we would always meet at someone's home or at a restaurant, or at a location where we could just be together to support each other.
It was devastating.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it was devastating to the world, but definitely to those of us who were, in the Staples Center, where we were expecting him to appear, and then he didn't. So, needless to say, it was a moment that changed everyone's lives. And I believe that, his life's work and, his goals and his dreams, a lot of them laid in This Is It. And, the fact that we were able to, realize it for the big screen in this documentary, was just such a blessing from God, because I think a greater tragedy would have been that no one got to see the ideas and no one got to experience what it was that Michael was preparing for the world. So in a small way, we were able to capture that in the movie. And as one of the filmmakers, I just feel so proud to have been, a part of that experience and a part of that journey that for me lasted almost 20 years. But I don't think it's over. I mean, I think that, just from seeing the response to the film and how many, new fans there are of Michael Jackson's work and his music.
Younger fans also.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, some older fans who are reintroduced to Michael, because for so many years, there were so many things surrounding him that got you away from his art, and so now his art is front and center again. And I believe that, the fans being able to share in that is something that he'd be very, very proud of.
Is it hard for you now?
Yes, it's hard for me. It's hard for me every day, but I do believe that, everything happens for a reason. And I think that, It's just how you deal with the situation.
You
That's
didn't see it
important.
coming. I mean,
Of course not.
No.
Of course not. Of course
If you
not.
see
We were in 8-hour rehearsals every day, sometimes up to 12 hours, to create the show that had been, such a dream of Michael's for many years. And when we talk about the show, he would get so excited. He would get so happy, and he would get, just thrilled at the idea of returning to the stage for this reason, to see his fans, to sing these songs, to, do these dances, and to, just sort of have this experience again. And I think that, that was one thing he wanted more than anything in the world, and to share with his children, what he had been so passionate about for years. They were old enough now to appreciate and understand what it was he did. So, they were around in the rehearsals at the home, never at the Staples Center or the Forum, because he wanted them, like the audiences of the world, to be surprised with what it was we were doing. So, no, there was no indication that he wasn't, of sound mind and body, and every day I saw a person that was, so excited about everything that we were doing, and so happy, because it had been a few years since he had been on stage in this way. So it meant the world to him, as it did to all of us.
What did you think he loved most about the show? What was he very, very proud of?
I think Michael was very proud of the fact that we were able to do such a big production and such an appropriate production for his messages, and that we were able to realize a show that was a wonderful sort of, frame for all of his messages that he has, created and shared over the years. That was really his sort of focus, was the messages. I also think that he was very excited about the idea of doing 3D live. He was very happy about the fact that we were going to be able to do a 3D experience for a significant portion of the show live, right in the stadium. It was not going to only be restricted to the films, but the experience that the member of the audience had would be a 3D experience for every person. And that's never been done before. And he was very excited about that.
Yeah. It's terrible that it went this way.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
My last question, then we go dance, because I think you're doing wonderful. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
What do you think his best move is? His
best move?
Yeah, what do you like the
Buying
most
the Beatles catalog.
Sorry?
Buying the Beatles catalog was the best move. But I think as far as the dance and the choreography, I am still a huge fan of the moonwalk. No one does it like him, and no one will ever do it like him. And I think that, of all of the things that we've gotten to create over the years, of all the things we've been able to imagine and create over the years, I definitely love Dangerous. I love that entire piece. I think that it's very strong. I think that it's gotten a lot of people to start, enjoying Michael Jackson. Even though it was created in 1995, began in 1993, sort of the most popular one is in 1995. And there was actually a new version of it that was to be involved with This Is It, that we finished just the night before Michael died. And hopefully someday that one will be shared with the world as well. But, I have a fondness in my heart for that piece because it was the first thing we ever created together.
Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.